prediction, I would say, and we are in that. So unless we adapt to changes, we will be dinosaurs. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh is not only about gods, it's about change management. So life is all about the concept of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. To me, it is nothing but change management. Now, this is Srishti, and we do not control our Srishti. You will all agree with me. We are neither born according to our will, nor die according to our will, in most cases. But you can surely change your Drishti. And I am quoting one of my dearest friends, Rajiv Khurana here, who always says this, that you can't change your Srishti, but you can change your Drishti. You call it Nazariya, positive attitude, you can name it whatever you want to, but please change. Now I come to the people factor. This is what I strongly believe. All problems, including business problems, are people problems. Those of you who take pride, oh, I'm a marketing guy, what have I got to do with HR? I'm an IT, high-end tech. Please tell me who created the tech. Please tell me who is doing the selling. Please tell me who is creating the marketing or sales policy. Please tell me who is your buyer. Please tell me a materials management person. Will the raw material automatically walk into your factory? Somebody from your organization has to go there to an organization which produces or manufactures that, and there has to be a human interaction there. You may have the latest automated machines, no problem. But first of all, who created the machine in the first place? Could it have come into existence without a human existence? And does any machine without a touch of a button somewhere work? So that is what we have to think. So to me, whenever we talk of why management, anything that you talk about is about people. And the best definition I've come across is not my creation. I don't want to take any credit. Management simply means, from the word itself, manage, men, and T stands for tactfully. If you can manage people tactfully, your job is done. Show me a leader who you revere, who doesn't have the ability, thank you, to, now you understand? So look at this. Mahabharata is a story. To me, it is not. I don't even believe, pardon my saying this, and some of you will get upset about it. I don't believe that Mahabharata and Ramayana ever happened. I am a non-believer. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion. But to me, Mahabharata is an excellent textbook of organizational behavior and human resource management. Because this story has the greatest of sadhus and saints, the greatest of intellectuals on one hand, and the greatest of crooks. And our dear friend Dr. Krishna here, and pardon the humor, is able to manage all of them. When Arjuna he's a talented person. We talk about talent management. One of the sessions was there, talent management. I don't think anybody can deny Arjuna was talented. But when it came to performance, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was shaking. And mind you, I can't get into the details. I can tell you the details, how initially he was very, very overconfident, and then what Krishna did to him and all that. I'm skipping that part. But ultimately, what did Krishna tell him? That why are you worrying? Soul cannot be killed. What you are killing is the body, right? So you are doing what you are supposed to do. You are doing your duty. Don't you change your clothes so many times? So it's like that. And Arjuna is all convinced. But I'm 100% sure, if this kind of a logic was given to Yudhishthir, who was a little more brainy probably, then he would have said, Krishna ji, ye batao, main sabko maar deta hu. वो दूसरी बॉडी, सोल दूसरी बॉडी लेके फिर खड़ी हो जाती है हमारे सामने, फायदा क्या वो मारने का? Arjun doesn't ask such questions. Krishna knows what logic will work on him. When it came to Yudhishthir's turn, he uses a different logic. He knows झूठ बोलेगा नहीं. अश्वत्थामा मर गया, गुरुपुत्र है कि गज है. पता लग गया सच तो गुरु जी को संभालना मुश्किल हो जाएगा, तो क्या करें? भैया तूने जो बोलना है बोल. जब बीच में वो पॉइंट आएगा, मैं शंख बजा दूंगा. I'll blow the conch, which is in modern management language, create a communication barrier. So sender is sending, receiver is trying to receive, but there is a communication barrier coming in. This is what the Westerners have done, Okay. Draupadi, Very intelligent lady, but very proud. Now, how does Krishna handle her? One day she catches hold of Krishna. आपको तो सब पता था, past, present, future. आपने ये 5 husband की मुसीबत क्यों डाल दी मेरे पे? So what? How does Krishna handle that? अरे 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 अरे, मैंने कुछ नहीं करा. अब पिछले जन्म में तो महान शिव भक्त थी, इतनी ज्यादा शिव भक्त थी कि शिव जी खुश हो गए. शिव जी आपको पता है भोलेनाथ जी हैं, कैलाश पर्वत में बैठे रहते हैं, उनको कोई दुनियादारी से मतलब ज्यादा नहीं है, राख वाख लगाए रखते हैं और अपना मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली टाइगर स्किन पहनते हैं. वेरी लकी गॉड. 1972 में वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट आ गया था. उसके बाद की कहानी होती तो शिव जी फंस जाते, लाइक सो मेनी ऑफ आवर फिल्म स्टार्स, एंड हाई कोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट के चक्कर लग जाते. बच गए. तो शिव जी तुम्हारी आराधना प्रार्थना से इतने खुश हो गए कि वो खुद नीचे चले. अरे बेटी तू इतनी तपस्या कर रही है, तेरे को चाहिए क्या? तुमने देखा है तो कमाल का अपॉर्चुनिटी है, कम टू मैनेजमेंट. बॉस खुद पूछ रहा है क्या चाहिए भैया, साइन करवा लो जो मर्जी. तो तुमने 5 लाख की लिस्ट बना दी, 5 मांगी थी, बट स्टोरी में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. वो सब शिव जी तो भोलेनाथ जी अप्रूव्ड, सैंक्शनड, चले गए वापस. अब इस जन्म में मेरे को वो काम आया. आई वॉज गिवन द रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ फाइंडिंग अ हस्बैंड फॉर यू. नाउ मैं कहां से ढूंढूं? मैं सारे वर्ल्ड का टूर लगाया, जैसे हमारे पॉलिटिशियन जाते हैं स्विट्जरलैंड की वादियों में कंप्यूटर सीखने. ऑन करना आता नहीं होगा, मेरे से भी पुअर होंगे आईटी में. तो कृष्णा जो है सारी दुनिया घूम के, देन मैं एक भी बंदा नहीं मिला भाई, इंडिया तो छोड़ो, वर्ल्ड में कोई नहीं है जिसमें वो सारी क्वालिटीज हों. अब ये 5 भाई मिला के सारी क्वालिटी, शिव जी का वरदान है जी, गलत कैसे हो सकता है? नो चांस. तो तुमने जो मांगा वो तुम्हें मिला. Now this is the story, but the point is, next time you get upset with your subordinate or your boss or your colleague, please ask yourself the question, why are you expecting your boss or subordinate or colleague to have all the qualities that you want in them? Nobody is perfect. That is the connect. When you get irritated with someone, please remember that even the Pandavas were not perfect. Nobody can be perfect. It is unfortunate that we create an image in our mind that he has to be perfect, and then we feel upset about our own imagination not coming true. So that is the connect we have to understand. But we don't. हम अभी भी वो ritualistic follow करे जा रहे हैं. Our पूर्वज were very, very intelligent. So this is where, and the last part, sir, if you permit me, that have you ever heard, and the ladies will kill me for this, but then please excuse me, I have said in advance, but this is the story I can't help. Have you seen a greater manager than Krishna, where he has a wife Rukmini at home, a major girlfriend Radha outside, and some 18,000 other girlfriends? I know the reasons, there are a lot of reasons, and all that is fine. And this is not the important thing. The important thing is, none of them is fighting with each other. Now, anybody who tried that, Bill Clinton tried that, he was on the verge of being impeached. Tiger Woods tried that. Ellen not only ran away with all his money, and he is down there in his area of work, that is golf. So it was only Krishna who could manage this. So one final thought, what differentiates Ram and Krishna? Only 2 qualities. Both were great personalities. Krishna had 2 extra qualities, and I learned this from my dean at FMS, Professor N.R. Chatterjee, whom I have thanked the last minute I'll spend on thanking. So he put this idea into our heads, and it was such a phenomenal learning. He says, first extra quality which Krishna had, which Ram didn't have, he knew how to dance. And quite frankly, the first time I heard that, I got shivers, because I said, then I will never become an effective manager, because this is one thing in which I have completely failed, even to date. There are many failures, many successes, but this is complete failure. But then what he said next gave some hope. And that was, he knew how to make others dance. And life is all about this. Don't give the actual physical art of dancing. Just look at it. What we do in our personal lives and our professional lives. Either we are explaining an idea to someone, trying to convince them, or we are getting convinced by someone else's ideas. Now, Krishna, being God, was able to convince everybody towards his way of thinking and the right way of thinking. Let us not forget that while his methods may look a little topsy-turvy sometimes, little, curvy sometimes, but was he for the ethical party or not? And compare the rigidity of Bhishma with the flexibility of Krishna. Bhishma was super intelligent, super knowledgeable. He was an intellect of a very, very high cadre. Probably there are only two in Mahabharata. One is Bhishma and the other is Vidur. But when it comes to Krishna, he is flexible. He knows if I have to catch a thief, I can't play by the normal rules. But he was always supportive of the ethical side. That is the important thing, right? So with those words, I would like to kind of stop it here because time is not my friend. There are some other thoughts which so this is what I was trying to explain. And adding the concept of effectiveness and efficiency from Peter Drucker and our formula for our clients is when you have both, that will lead to excellence. So these parts, if you permit me half a minute, Chanakya talked about Sam, Dam, Dand and Bhed, which is basically what? Deal with different people differently. And if you compare that, I have a whole model here on Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. Hersey Blanchard, when they created the followership model, what did they say? Different followers have to be dealt with through different leadership styles. That's it. So therefore, 2,300-year-old learnings, and Hersey Blanchard is not even 40-year-old. So there is no one best way, which is what they came to the conclusion. Chanakya had said that 2,300 years back. So this part I'll completely skip. This is about success of an organization and how success happens when the focus is really strong. I find people aspiring for success without any focus. आज क्रिकेट खेल लूँ, कल पॉलिटिक्स कर लूँ, परसों नौकरी कर लूँ, फोर्थ डे बिजनेस कर लूँ, you can't do that. You can't have success like that. You have to stick to something. There are many examples that can be taken. Lincoln and Mahatma Gandhi to be, even we have to learn from our failures. Management is dead. Why do I say that? Long live management. Why do I say that? Management is dead only in the traditional sense. Again, I bring you back to change. And what is the good part? If we keep on modifying our styles of management, we will keep on surviving till infinity. The way ahead is very simple. Give the world your best, and the best will come back to you. So be a winner would be my suggestion for all of you and my hope for all of you. Just last 15 seconds. The first three of these, I talked about Professor Chatterjee already. Dr. Ghosh and Dr. Abdul Aziz, they were my teachers at FMS. Chatterjee Sahab was the dean. Dr. Ghosh taught me basics of HRM, and Dr. Abdul Aziz was my thesis guide. Joseph Mani was my first boss at Escorts, an amazing person. I am Ahmedabad, but that was not the important thing. Excellent person and excellent professional, learnt a lot. Reena and Inyas are dearest of friends, their husband, wife, staying in Gurgaon only, helped me in every which way. Sanjay is my IT guy, I can't do without him. All that you see here is courtesy Sanjay. And Trisha is my daughter, who luckily has again taken up HR. She's an HR manager with the Bharti Airtel group right here in Gurgaon. So we discuss a lot of things and ideas are exchanged. Second thanks, of course, Dr. Ekta Saxena and Mr. Rajan Pandey. Without them, I wouldn't have got the opportunity to come here and meet up with all of you. And my final thanks is reserved for you all, because even Ekta and Rajan would not have invited me if you were not coming. So thank you very much. I hope I have been able to do justice to the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit ji. It was thought-provoking and humorous. We've been waiting to listen to you, Mr. Gurucharan Singh Gandhi, Vice President and Head L&D, Birla Sun Life. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see from this slide, the reference of my conversation is going to be Kabir. Now, Kabir has answers to many problems. What he doesn't have answers to is how do you make up in short period of time what you have prepared for a longer duration, because your dear colleagues have slightly eaten away into yours. Kabir, I will refer to Kabir if I can find a solution to that problem subsequently, but right now I don't have an answer to that. So first of all, how did this affair begin with Kabir? He's an unusual muse, and I'm not even that old that midlife crisis probably would have inspired me to start searching for some of the quests that usually sets in once you reach the other side of 40s. So way back in 2009, I was sent by my old organization to a leadership development program to Singapore through CCM, Center for Creative Leadership. And at the end of those 4 days, one fundamental conclusion was achieved, that while organizations create structures, processes, rule books, SOPs, performance management, talent management, and the whole paraphernalia, it all boils down to not what the processes do for you, but what the individual chooses to do. Great leadership factory comes to a knot at the altar of individual choice. So you can send people to greatest of leadership programs, but as he returns back to work, it's his individual choice whether he wants to apply them or not. And that's a dilemma with which I returned. That's a dilemma with which I returned back to India. And when I started looking around, I was continuously being baffled. And my dichotomy emerged from the fact that here were organizations spending billions and billions of dollars in trying to train leaders. And it all was not giving them sufficient bang for buck, because if it was ultimately a matter of individual choice, how do you make that one person make that right choice? That dichotomy, that dilemma needed an answer. And in my quest for those answers, I landed up on the doorstep of Kabir. So in 2012, I started researching this and spent almost the entire year spending most of my free time studying the various sources from which we know Kabir. Now, Kabir is a very strange, he's a strange icon, because he has not been documented as much as he is passed from one generation to another generation through oral traditions in various parts of the country. The only Kabir that we know is the 10 marks question in Hindi that probably you would have answered. Beyond that, our understanding of the saint is very limited. And as I spent the whole of 2012, I realized there is more Kabir available outside books than we know of. The only Kabir, as I said, is either on the Hindi book, or some bit of Kabir is present in Guru Granth also. But there is more Kabir available in the oral tradition. So I spent the entire year 2012 doing this research, and early in 2013 I started to pen down what I thought would turn into a book. Well, it has turned into a book. It's just that it has not met its publishers yet. Hopefully I'll find some of them willing to take that plunge. But what I present to you today is a result of 2012 and 2013, those 2 years. As I returned from Singapore, I also happened to read this 4 lines from Bulle Shah. And it is coincidental. Confucius says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And it just so happened that here I was supremely confused about this whole world of leadership. And I come back to India, and within the first week, I happened to come across this couplet. Now, I don't know whether it is visible there, but I'll read it out to you. And I want to request you to spend just a minute of reflection on it, although it's a little bit Punjabi, but not very difficult to understand if your Hindi is all right. He says, "Pad pad alam fazil hoyo, kade apne aap nu padhya hi nahi." Pad pad ke you have become wise, but you have never studied your own self. "जा जा वड़दा है मंदिर मसीदी, कदे अपने मन nu padhya hi nahi." you keep on going to the structured places of learning. You attend training programs, leadership development programs. कदी अपने मन नू पढ़े ही नहीं. Never read what is there in your own mind. ਐਵੇਂ रोज शैताना नाल लड़दा है. कदे नब्ज अपने नाल लड़े ही नहीं. You are fighting with the vagaries of the universe, the uncertainties of the environment, never fighting what is deep inside you. And बुल्ले शाह आसमानी उड़दा उड़िया नू फड़दा है, जेड़ा घर बैठा है उन्हें फड़े ही नहीं. You are trying to understand where the economy is going, strategy is going, environment is going, what is right there inside you. You have never tried to figure that out. And as I returned from that workshop, I said, oh my God, if this is true, then the answer probably lies somewhere else and not in attending 3 training programs in 1 year. And here I was head of learning and development, whose job was to send people to training programs. And I said, I'm the con man of the highest order. Well, you got a living to make, I still continue to do that. Some conditions apply. I'm not a scholar of Kabir. I'm his lover. In fact, if I claim that I'm a scholar of Kabir, Kabir would hate me. Because Kabir lambasted scholars all his life. And you will see in some of the dohas that I will present to you, he hated structured knowledge. He hated any willingness of mankind or any desire of mankind to search for structured knowledge. He belonged to a tradition of mystics who believed experience is more powerful than structured knowledge. So whatever I speak to you is my limited appreciation of Kabir, in my worship of him, in my study of him, in my experience of him, not even study, in my experience of him. And should you find any other explanation to what you see on the slides, by all means make those interpretations. Because Kabir is not an opinion, he is just a perspective. All his life he only gave perspective, he never gave opinions. And that was his magic. And as leaders and in the corporate world, it is an amazing stuff to learn from, that we always try to provide opinions. Opinions don't last long. Perspectives last very long. Because all his life, nobody owned Kabir. The day he died, in the last 400 years, everybody wants to usurp the identity of Kabir. Everybody wants to claim Kabir as his own. That's the magic of what I call perspectives. So these are some conditions that apply. And out of around 1,000 dohas that I studied, I tried to say how many clusters can be derived out of it. And I arrived at somewhere around 13 clusters. And I said, what are those 13 things that modern corporate world can learn from him? Interestingly, my book went through 3 tentative titles. And this transition of titles is also a story in humor. The first title that I thought was, I will call it Kabir and Kotler. Almost pitching Kabir against Kotler. The second one I thought was Kabir in the boardroom. When you don't have publishers, you can continuously change the titles and nobody will bother. And finally, as of now, without those publishers, I'm at Kabir and the corporate. Hopefully, I will find a publisher before I have to change the title again. So what I present to you is 5 of those clusters. And as I said, Kabir is a mystic. He believes in experience. So the first line or the first area that I want to talk to you about is that leaders grow through reflection. They don't go through learning and growth by attending formal training programs. They go through growth through reflection and awareness. Reflection causes awareness and coaching. And here is this whole world of who is the right guru that I'm going to talk about. The second is experience is superior to knowledge. Third, the criticality of courage. And you will, I'm sure some bit of Kabir that you know, you will realize that he spared nobody when he was alive. He was so courageous. He actually criticized everybody around that time. Finally, passion and focus and empathy. Those are the 5 things that I'm going to talk about. Leadership is under intense scrutiny these days. Everybody watches what leaders do, what decisions they take. But more importantly, what is under intense scrutiny is also how those decisions are taken. Whether those decisions are taken unilaterally, whether those decisions are taken through consensus on the other hand. And both extremes have their own sense of problems. So if a leader starts taking too many decisions unilaterally, you say, here is a dictator, here is a one-man army, and it does not create an organization which is healthy, it doesn't create a culture which is responsive, aligned, etc. And on the other hand, some leaders don't want to take decisions because taking decision has its own set of issues, because you stick your neck out, you get caught in the wrong foot, it creates its own set of problems. Kabir has an answer to this, and he says, "Charcha karu chohate, ज्ञान करूं तब दोए, और ध्यान करें तब एकला और न दूजा कोई." So what he's saying is, चर्चा करूं तो चौहटे, जब चर्चा करनी है, when you have to make discussions, do it on the चौराहा, do it with everybody, call the whole organization, do bottoms up, create focus groups, so on and so forth. और ज्ञान करूं तब दोए, when you want to synthesize that discussion into knowledge, you have to synthesize all of that into something of value, then create a small group, 2 people, don't create a crowd. चर्चा करूं तब चौहटे, ज्ञान करूं तब दोए, और ध्यान करें, when you finally have to take a decision, take it alone. Don't expect too many people to take that for you. You are the leader, you are to take that discussion alone. Now, supposing you change the sequence. Supposing you say, I will take the decision with 20 people, do the discussion with only 2, you know what's the kind of organization that you then end up creating. The sequences must be right. So charcha with everybody, synthesis with a few, and decision by only 1. That's what Kabir said. This is this whole area about how do you create reflections. The second aspect was around coaching. Now, I have lots and lots to talk about this word called coaching, because my own view is the failures of bosses have created a cottage industry called coaching. In an ideal world, the boss is supposed to be a great coach, isn't it? So he has an administrative job of setting targets, doing reviews, ensuring people work, providing hygiene items, so on and so forth. At the other end, he also has a job of ensuring that people are motivated, people are inspired, so on and so forth. However, the tools that these 2 functions require are very different. One requires the function of direction, almost of saying this is how it has to be done. On the other hand, the tool required is questioning, inquiry, empathy, so on and so forth. However, as time has passed by, one realizes that bosses have become good at the first, have not become so good at the second, and therefore you have independent people pitching in as independent coaches. The more royally bosses fail in their coaching responsibilities, the more gloriously will the coaching industry rise, is what Kabir said. I am not saying it. And he's saying, Guru hai bade Govind se. By the way, boss in his times was God. God's relationship with mankind in the 1400 was that of the boss of today. Supremely powerful, omnipresent, omnipotent. Don't mess with him. Ensure you are hungry sufficient number of days in the year. Make sure that you are always bowing in front of him. The relationship between the worshipped and the worshipper was that based on one man's disproportionate power over the other. That's the boss.